Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. That's depending where you are in the world. We're here in London. We are live doing our devotion. It was night time, but I didn't get to do it last night. My apologies. But it's the devotion from yesterday. It's called From the Devotional Conflict and Courage. The title today, Tested Again. The scripture reading comes from 1 Samuel 15 verse 3. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not. The Lord sent his servant with another message to Saul. By obedience, he might still prove his fidelity to God and his worthiness to walk before Israel. Samuel came to the king and delivered the word of the Lord. The Amalekites had been the first to make war upon Israel in the wilderness, and for this sin, together with the defiance of God and their debasing idolatry, the Lord, through Moses, had pronounced sentence upon them. For 400 years, the execution of this sentence had been deferred. But the Amalekites had not turned from their sins. The Lord knew that this wicked people would, if it were possible, blot out his people and his worship from the earth. Now the time had come for the sentence, so long delayed, to be executed. The forbearance that God has exercised toward the wicked emboldens men in transgression, but their punishment will be none the less certain and terrible for being long delayed. While he does not delight in vengeance, he will execute judgment upon the transgressors of his law. He is forced to do this, to preserve the inhabitants of the earth from utter depravity and ruin. In order to have some, he must cut off those who become hardened in sin. And the very fact of his reluctance to execute justice testifies to the enormity of the sins that call forth his judgments, and to the severity of the retribution awaiting the transgressor. But while inflicting judgment, God remembered mercy. The Amalekites were to be destroyed by the Kenites, who dwelt among them, were spared. This people, though not wholly free from idolatry, were worshippers of God and were friendly to Israel. Of this tribe was the brother-in-law of Moses, Hobab, who had accompanied the Israelites in their travels through the wilderness, and by his knowledge of the country had rendered them valuable assistance. Again, the title, Tested Again. And as it says, the Amalekites had always been against God. They didn't worship God, they didn't acknowledge God. They were all about idolatry and their depravity. God had deferred the judgment on the Amalekites, it says, 400 years. 400 years. That's the same amount of time Israel were slaves in Egypt. So he was giving them opportunity. They knew of God because they knew about Israel. They knew about the God of Israel. But they still refused to turn from their idolatry, to turn from the depraved ways. And then there were the Kenites, who were within the domain of the Amalekites. And the Kenites were the people of Hobab, as it says, who was Moses' brother-in-law, who had helped the Israelites. So God is a merciful God. It's not just the whole. He sees those that are there that do keep his ways and want him to be their God. He is a just beautiful, loving, caring God. And quite rightly so, he needs to punish those who are turning against him or punishing his people. And it is a case of he either goes with the Amalekite, he gets rid of them, or they get rid of Israel, which they quite rightly probably could have done. Maybe, who knows? But it didn't happen. And we are here serving that same God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, the people of Israel. And he will be here until heaven comes back, until he comes back, and all of those that do not serve him will be dealt with his way. God bless you.